This drawing is a graphical representation of the refrigeration cycle. This tubing is typically copper tubing, and inside that copper tubing is either a liquid or gas refrigerant. When this liquid refrigerant enters this orifice that we call an expansion device or an expansion valve, the pressure drops, and so this high pressure liquid drops into a low pressure liquid, and when this low pressure liquid travels down the copper tubing and begins to pick up heat, then it evaporates and turns into a low pressure gas. The magic of air conditioning happens when the liquid evaporates into a gas, and so that's the reason we call this piece of or component an evaporator coil. And this evaporator coil is constructed with aluminum fins all across this copper tubing, and the heat from the building is blown across this evaporator coil by a evaporator fan blower with a blower motor, and the heat in this air is picked up through this aluminum fin, and it travels to the copper tubing and into the refrigerant liquid, and that heat turns this liquid into a gas. So this gas picks up all of this heat as it travels through our evaporator coil, and by the time it leaves the coil, it's 100% gas. And this gas travels down this copper tube as with all the heat, and when it gets to the compressor, a compressor is a compressor or pump, and as this gas enters the pump, this is the suction side, so sometimes this is called the suction line, and it enters the pump and it is compressed or pumped up to a high pressure gas, and it leaves the compressor as a high pressure gas and comes to another coil that we call the condenser coil. And the way this condenser coil gets its name is it condenses this gas into a liquid. This condenser coil is constructed similar to the evaporator coil in that it has aluminum fins, and the air is blown across this coil with a blower or a fan and motor, and this air drives the heat out of this hot gas into the air, and this hot gas condenses into a liquid, and by the time it leaves the condenser coil, and we'll call this whole thing, this assembly right here is our condenser coil, by the time it leaves there and travels down this copper tube, it's now a liquid again, and the cycle starts all over.